Namami Bhagavatam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavathaya Shuddha-jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Katakcha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye Namaha.
कटाक्षकिरणाचार्य नमन्मोहाब्धये नमः
नमः
Anantananda Krishnaya Jaganmangalamurtaye.
अनन्तानन्द
अनन्तानन्दकृष्णाय
कृष्णाय
जगन्मङ्गलमूर्तये।
जगन्मङ्गलमूर्तये.
We were looking at the verse, in fact, a set of verses, which looks at what is the Vachyartha and what is the Lakshyartha of the words Satyam, Jnanam, and Anandam, or Anantam. In this verse, we were dealing with Satyam, Astitvam, easiness. In the Jagat, we talk of everything, we have to say is, or was, or am. That doesn't matter. A pot is, an idea is, a thought is. And there is, to that easiness, there is a object attached to it. A pot, a thought, a feeling, anything. It's attached to that easiness. But the easiness by itself is just that, astitvam, satyam. Doesn't require anything to be attached to it. But in the Jagat, when we talk about something is, we have to say something is. That is the difference. That easiness is of something. Whereas when you talk of this easiness in terms of satyam, from a paramarthika viewpoint, there is nothing attached to it. It is just easiness. The very nature of everything. That easiness which pervades everything here. When we go to the next one, jnanam, we may not see that in every object in this Jagat. There we are talking about not just easiness in terms of that aspect, which is true for everything, but also the sentiency aspect. That sentiency aspect cannot happen without the easiness. Easiness and sentience they go together. Unless there is something ease, then sentiency or non-sentiency has no meaning. But when we look at it from the Paramarthika perspective, since there's nothing else attached to it, ease is the same thing as jnanam. Satyam is the same as jnanam. I'm sure there will be a lot more discussion on that. So that is what we were reading in the last class. We've read quite a little bit already. Who is going to read? I'd like who reads to read the verse itself. And then if you want to refresh your memory by quickly flipping through what we've read so far, see if we can do a summary.
Can I
Would
read,
like to do that?
Swamiji?
Yes, who say?
Divyansh.
Divyansh, bolo.
Um,
Read the verse itself first.
Verse 22.
Hmm.
स्वरूपमेव मे सत्वं न तु धर्मो न भस्त्ववत् मदन्यस्य सतो भावान् न हि सा जातिरिष्यते.
Ma, Sattvam is mama swarupam. It is not a dharma. It's not an attribute. It's not a guna. My very swarupam is satyam. Yeah, do you want to refresh your mind by quickly glancing through what we read so far and do a quick summary?
Um, I'm actually, Swamiji, not sure how to summarize it.
Anybody can do that.
So, I can try.
Sure.
So far, I think we're saying, or the Kavi is saying that the Atma itself does not have any attributes, because if it were to have attributes, then it would become a jati, and then there would end up being many Atmas, which is not what actually is. So all the attributes are essentially just different namarupas of the Atma itself. I think that's the beginning.
Okay.
If somebody wants to develop
Add to
on more.
that quick summary.
So I think in the last class we were discussing a lot about the clay pot. Um, so like generally when we say let's say a red rose, so the road is the substantive and the presiding word is the attribute. So when we say clay pot, it appears that the pot is substantive, but clay is an attribute just. And like the questioner here gives argument that instead of clay pot, I will bring steel pot or things like that. But the thing is that the substantive here, although the like because the sentence is formed that the clay is placed before, but the clay is the substance. So like because without the clay there is no such thing as pot. So clay has in the universe of clay things, clay has the independent existence and pot has the dependence existence over clay. So similarly, I think we said that in the when we talk about the Jagat, the isness is the substantive, and the object, when we say the object is the um, has dependent reality over the isness. So objects come and go, but the isness remains. I think that was it, right?
Yeah, good. So he mentioned, for example, that the in the universe of clay and clay objects, when you say a pot is, isness does not even belong to the pot. It is borrowed from clay. Similarly, the whole Jagat, isness is not its own. It is actually, isness belong to the Satyam of Pratyam Anantam Brahma, borrowed temporarily. And that's other point that he talked about. That anything that isness in the Jagat is within time. One point I remember read, and then also said that Not only is it within time, keeps changing within time also. Everything in the Jagat is moving and changing. There's nothing that is permanent, that is independent of time. So those are some of the factors we were discussing. I don't know if there are any other factors we missed. Anybody?
I think thinking about the time, we say that I is always there. So, but the questioner said that I am not in the deep sleep. But so Swamiji said that then who says that it was deep sleep? Only you know. So the I is beyond time as well.
Good. Anything else we missed in this summing up?
आत्मा नित्यसिद्धः
Mm-hmm.
स्वप्रकाशः अनिर्वचनीयः अद्वैतस्वरूपः.
Correct. You cannot apply any of these to anything in the Jagat. None of these will apply to anything in the Jagat. Nothing is Nitya Shuddha. Again, one has to be very careful about using those words. I mean, we just repeat words which we read or we hear, but we know what we are saying. There is nothing to stain it. What is Shuddha? Something
There is no other
is
thing.
not. I remember that I told you about this science experiments we did in school. Did I tell you that story?
Yes, so
We were doing
water
science
purifying.
projects in school, and our project was a filtering system. And in the filtering system, we also had charcoal, we also had sand. Now, some of the people who came, including some of the students, they said, this is pure. What do you mean pure? Sand is impure. As sand, it is not impure. Something else added to sand makes it impure. Anything external added to it makes it impure. There can be nothing external. There is nothing else to make it impure. So these shabda that we use, and most of the shabda we use are negation. Not this, not this, not this, not this. And this we cannot use this directly in anything in the Jagat. With nothing in the Jagat can we use any of these words like Nitya Shuddha. Nitya itself we cannot use because we know everything keeps changing. Everything is subject to destruction. Good.
One more thing.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the class, I think we covered that Swamiji showed one magic that when he put the pot in his hand and then he said that it is clay and clay throughout. And once we have the cognition of the clay, then he says that there is no pot. So the pot gets as if it was not there at all. So it's only clay and clay. So in the Vivek Chudamani also, Swamiji mentioned like a tree is just a name when we say that this object has treeness to it. But if we see carefully that it's just an assembly of different branches, leaves, etc. So there is no such thing as a tree. So we may call it a tree or we may call it a pot, but that's not a thing. So when Swamiji, you also say that when you understand Maya, you become the mind. So if you say that when we recognize the Asti Bhati in the Jagat, then we say that there is no Jagat. Only Asti Bhati is there.
That's how you understand Nama Rupa. Tree is only a Nama Rupa. A Nama with and some kind of form. Everything is only Nama Rupa, which is, for want of a better word, illusory. Doesn't have real existence. Very nice once you understand. Where did we leave the reading off? We can continue from there.
Page 256, para 2.
Okay. Okay.
We cannot dismiss the pot totally as tucham, non-existent, and we cannot take it as something satyam. It does not bring about any addition to the clay. Therefore, pot is a vishesha. We are constrained to say that pot is a vishesha, an attribute to clay. If pot is a vishesha, a nama rupa adjective of clay, then what should we say? How should the language be? How should the sentence be? Should the phrase be clay pot? It should be potty clay. हाँ it should be potty clay. Potty clay, bangly gold, chainy gold. If it is bangly gold, chainy gold, ringy gold, nose ringy gold, ear ringy gold, finger ringy gold, etc., then there is only gold. This linguistic orientation creates nana. That is why we say
Not Nanaji. It only is Nanatvam.
multiple, multitudinous.
Hmm.
That is why we say the whole nanatvam is centered on your tongue. Vacharam, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam. Chandogyopanishad 6:1-4. It is centered on your tongue. It is verbal. But I think, Swamiji, like the mind works in that fashion only, right? It works through the objects, not through the substratum, right?
True. That's because the orientation we have. We have this orientation and we
Everything
go
is
by that. But
objectified.
after having studied all this, then even when somebody mentions a clay pot, in your mind, we rephrase it as potty clay. Clay with a nama and rupa of a pot. So in our own mind, orientation is like that only. Universally, that is the orientation. That is why when we say, even anybody who talks in any form of Dvaitam, whether it is our own Hindu people or others, and we think a little bit about it, if there is Dvaitam, I don't need so many books, I don't need Shastra, I don't need a guru to teach me because I know there is Dvaitam. Why do you need to go through all this? But that's not true. There is no... Dvaitam is there as something like a stepping stone to get to the truth. And it is very necessary. You cannot do without Dvaitam. Also because of our own orientation, we have to accept Dvaitam and despite the Dvaitam, understand Advaitam. All orientation only. And that is one aspect of it. The second aspect is even after we understand it or we think we've understood it, what happens? Because of the same orientation, we tend to go back to that again and again and again. It is like saying, if you have remodeled your room, let us say the lady of the house, she likes to keep changing things around, moved everything around. The sofa is not where it used to be, the TV is not where it used to be, everything is changed. But when you walk in, particularly when you're tired and come back, you go to where the sofa was earlier to sit down. You move to a new house after living in one place for 30 years. You're driving back, the tendency is to turn towards the old house till you remind yourself, no, that's all changed now. That orientation is very strong. Even in a small thing like live in a place for 10, 15 years, you can have this orientation. Can you imagine how much of an orientation we have when we have been living this non-truth for so many lives, so many generations, so many this thing, constantly reinforced by this world. So the orientation is extremely strong. So that's how we think. We think everything within time, everything within space. Even Einstein had a problem thinking outside of time and space with his capacity to think. So हम किस खेत की मूली हैं? You're right. That orientation is there. And all the studies hopefully will open our mind to looking at it slightly differently.
No caller.
Somebody say something? Yeah, okay. Continue.
There is nothing wrong in using words, but one should understand. Gold, if you say, then it has many visheshas, which are not independent of gold. Similarly, there are many pots, and there is other earthenware also, but clay is one, only one clay.
I had
Therefore,
gone out today, and there is one shop here which sells all kinds of clay products. I wanted to take a picture, but I didn't have time. Next time I go, that's time I'm going to take a picture. There are many things of different types, different shapes, different sizes, different utilities, but they're all nothing but clay. So you go to any clay shop. I was thinking, that you could do that in a gold shop. The problem is gold shop, they won't allow you to take pictures. But in a clay shop, maybe you'll allow. Next time I go there, or anybody comes across a clay shop which has a variety of clay products, please take pictures.
therefore,
Yeah.
Was it in Adayarmolem Road?
I'm sorry?
Was it in Adayarmolem Road?
No, this is when you go past Gandhi Park,
Oh, okay.
there's one shop where I bought a few things from.
Okay.
But I'm sure there are many shops. This is one I've seen because it's a variety of clay products.
Anamali also it is there.
Anywhere you see one, take pictures. It'd be nice to share that. Yeah.
Jagdishan ji will be getting one from ChatGPT.
Okay.
Therefore,
That'll be virtual, but we can get it from the Jagat itself.
And I have one pot maker near my house.
Yeah.
therefore, poti clay you can say, lidi clay you can say, kapi clay you can say, all kinds of things you can say. Otherwise, what will happen? Clay cup, clay pot, etc. Then these will all be perceived as different things. Kapi clay, poti clay means there is only one clay. The linguistic orientation is the adjective becomes the substantive and the substantive becomes an adjective. This is what is called samsara. Nothing else is samsara. Converting an adjective into a substantive is samsara, and the substantive becomes an adjective. You become an adjective. When you are the substantive, you become an adjective. And adjective means dependence. Therefore, you depend upon the world, depend upon everything. That dependence is called samsara, and then you want independence.
Even as you were reading this, a thought occurred to me. If you look at any ancient religion, including our own, to us, everything is Ishvara. All the old religions also did that. They will all worship rivers, trees, animals, snakes, whatever. So in their mind, in our mind as well, we look at it what? Tree Ishvara, river god, tree god, sun god. Dushtan God. Even that. When we understand in our own mind that, then this orientation will become less powerful. Because to us, you see a scorpion, scorpion God. Sure, it poses danger to the physical body and probably induces fear, but it is scorpion God. So everything is God, because to us, Sarvam Kalbitam Brahma. So in our thinking and in the thinking of all ancient religions which have been destroyed by various forces, they all had the same thing. They would worship everything as we do. So you have everything. Therefore, we don't have any problem with anything and saying that God. So same logic if we apply, tree God, river God, Manusha God, rat God, how does it matter? Everything is only a form, manifest form of God, of Ishvara. Somehow when I say tree God, it sounds a little bit more familiar, but really what we should be saying, tree Ishvara, river Ishvara, mountain Ishvara, snake Ishvara, rat Ishvara, human Ishvara. Everything is Ishvara. Think about that. Yeah.
That is the Ishvara Darshan, right? We will see in Coimbatore. No, Manjikudi.
Say that again.
That is the Ishvara Darshan workshop, right?
That's the Ishvara that is?
Ishvara Darshan workshop in Manjikudi.
Yeah. Part of it will be that. Part of it will be that.
We have to reorient ourselves because when you say Ghataha Sun, Pataha Sun, Akashaha Sun, that sun and the sun in Asmi. When you say Aham Asmi is one and the same. What is Asmi, Swamiji?
Asmi is I am. Aham
I
Asmi.
am. So
He
Asmi
is,
is
you
am,
are.
right?
But are, am, is means the same thing. Isness,
Asti
existence.
and Asmi same hai.
Asti is for third person singular.
Okay.
So he, she, it is. Asmi is for the first person. Aham, Uttama Purusha.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think here it should be and the sun is Asmi, right? Not sun in Asmi.
No, sun is Asmi. In sun and Asmi, sun means what? Being. In grammar, you will say, today being sunny, I will go out for a walk. That being is what is sun, is the being, is the isness. So that is the same thing. Sun, Ghata sun, Pata sun, Akasha sun, being Ghata, being Akasha, being whatever else, is the isness, the Satyam. Even in Asmi, it is the same equivalent, sun.
Okay.
Hmm.
That existence is the same. That isness is something upon which there is the etching of Nama Rupa. When you say Aham Asmi, that Aham Asmi implies the isness. That isness joins every Nama Rupa. So Aham is also Nama Rupa here.
Yes. Aham,
Okay.
if you think of Aham as the body mind sense complex, as Ahankara, it is Namarupa.
हाँ
But when you think
ठीक
of
है
Aham as Atma,
awareness.
then it is the Satyam.
Okay. Siddha Swarupa.
That isness joins every Nama Rupa. Anything that you say is, it joins the isness. Whether you say idamasti or ahamasmi, this is or I is, that is the same. The Vishesha is Namarupa, and therefore Atma does not have Sattvam as its attribute, it's its nature. Sattvam is Atma, Chitvam is also Atma, Ananda is also Atma. Atma is said to be Sat Chit Ananda. The words revealing the nature of Atma, Sat, Chit and Ananda do not indicate a quality obtaining in a substantive. If Sat is a quality, Sattvam, then it becomes the basis for a Jati, Sattva Jati. Therefore, Sa Jatihi na Ishyate. That is why he proves here Swarupam eva me Sattvam. Me mama atmanah Sattvam Swarupam eva. Eva. This is the difference between Swarupa and Dharma. Dharma is quality, right, Swamiji?
Yeah, dharma is quality.
Swarupam here means that Atma happens to be the Satyam of everything that exists. If it is the Satyam of everything that exists, then it is not a Dharma of a substantive revealing a Jati. What is the meaning of Jati? Jati is a species, like Ghata Jati, characterized by Ghatatvam. It implies many members belonging to the same species. Therefore, a big Ghata or a small Ghata are both Ghata. Yatra yatra Ghatatvam, tatra tatra Ghataha iti. Where there is Ghatatvam, we are able to recognize a small Ghata and a big Ghata as Ghata. Both are Ghatas. This is a Ghata. That is also a Ghata.
You must be showing two pots in this class. Big pot and a small pot.
But Swamiji, so like if we say Ishvara with Ishvaratvam, that also is, but that is a one thing, right? It's not a Jati.
That's not a, Ishvara, there is only one Ishvara. We create our own varieties of Ishvara. See, when you say Ishvara, then there is no Ishvaratvam. That Ishvaratvam becomes Mithya.
Yes.
Ishvara is the same as Brahman.
Yes.
On that, we superimpose certain quality called Ishvaratvam. That is our doing. When you are living in Dvaita, we need that to impose that Ishvaratvam, which is primarily Sarvajñatvam, Sarvashaktimatvam is Ishvara. We impose that because we need that support from something which is much bigger than I. Therefore, we do that. And then we have these, generally when you say Ishvaratvam, consists of Ishvara, consists of Sarvajñatvam, Sarvashaktimatvam, then you split it into smaller devatas.
Okay.
Where a devata for liver will have all the knowledge of liver, of all the living beings all over, not only here, but in any other loka also. So you understand now why I call it a domain expert.
Mhm.
He knows everything about that is known about. So where does he get that jnanam? All part of the shared sarvajñatvam of Ishvara.
Okay.
So we have many devatas. But Ishvara, if you understand the real Ishvara, there is no form, there is no tvam. It is only Brahman. That's why many times you find that Swamiji also uses Ishvara and Brahman interchangeably, hoping that we will understand. But if you say Ishvara with Ishvaratvam, that is also part of the Jagat. That Ishvaratvam is Mithya.
Okay.
And because of Maya.
Because of Maya.
This is a ghata, that is also a ghata. But then, though ghatatvam is samanyam between the two, still there is a difference between the members. This is called jati. Sat is not a guna. It is not that there are two atmas which have sat existence as samanyam, as a common property, revealing a jati. It is not that there are many atmas. It is not like that, because we are talking of only one sattvam, which is the very swarupa of the atma. Existence is the swarupa of the atma, and everything else is dependent
Words
upon
are
that
confusing. Again,
existence.
he's saying existence is the very Swarupa of Atma. I'm thinking we can find a better way of saying existence. Easiness, in fact, becomes a little easier to understand. Easiness is the very Swarupa. And earlier somewhere Swamiji had said, no, the dhatvarta of the as dhatu, then it becomes a little bit clearer. But in English, when you translate, say existence it can create confusion.
Yeah, eastness is better. It's more easy.
But the
For
real
any
trick is to understand the difference between Swarupa and Dharma. Dharma is only the Vachyartha of the word. Swarupa is the inherent, very nature of whatever it is we're describing.
Lakshartha.
Takshartha.
For anything that you say is, the meaning of that is goes only to atma. Like when you say the pot is, the isness goes to the clay, and the pot is purely a nama rupa, itself not being a substantive. Naturally, the nama rupa vishesha is superimposed upon the clay, and therefore visheshana vishesha dharma is not there really. When you say ghataha, that ghatatvam itself is a superimposition upon clay. There is no visheshana vishesha sambandha between the clay and the ghata. And that is why clay can be a lid, it can be a pot, it can be a water jug or whatever. It can be in different forms, but the clayatvam alone is the dharma for that. Ghatatvam or any other modification of clay like sharavatvam. Sharava means a shallow cup, dish, plate, platter, another form like a pot. Sharavatvam means sharavaness, etc. Ghatatvam or any other modification of clay like sharavatvam, etc. are all dharmas superimposed upon the clay. In fact, the clay has nothing to do with any one of them. The example stops there. Do not extend that.
Why I was saying take pictures of this shop selling all kind of clay things. Perhaps in Vedic times, they may have made only a few things with clay. Nowadays, you get a variety of things made of clay. I have seen clay ornaments, you hang in your neck. I've seen clay foot scrapers, which have nothing to do with pot. The function is different. Unlike a pot or a jar, some function is similar. So if you look at the shop which has multiple products, you will probably find a variety. Because when you're trying to use it as a drishtanta for the Jagat has tremendous multiplicity. Not one function, all kinds of functions. But here also Swamiji is using that very similar, cup, and is also using sarava. like a shallow saucer. Yeah.
First time coming across this name, Salava.
Sorry?
The first time I'm coming across the Salava name. Salava, the first time நான் கேள்விப்படுறேன்.
I've not heard the word either. This is first time.
Okay.
I must have read it when we first read this text. I don't remember. Only now when Swami is explaining, I understand.
Maybe used in filter coffee or something.
Mm.
Clay has got clayatvam, superimposed clayness, that is correct. But that clayness itself is superimposed on atoms that constitute clay. And the atomness in turn is superimposed on paramanus, subatomic particles that constitute atoms. The truth of pot is now seen as paramanutvam, particleness, shifted cognitively from pot to clay to atoms to paramanus. Swamiji, there is one, like I thought of something, like when we talk about these things, right? Ki everything has a dependent reality. Like we are breaking down to atoms, molecules, and after that, scientists will say that there are just vibrations and all. But Vedantin like tried to like stick to that. Ki matlab ki okay, it may look like a pot or whatever, but it's nothing but atoms and it's nothing but vibrations. But a scientist, like they keep on doing all the researches and all, but they still consider the world as real, even if they like through their instrument they say that okay, it's nothing but vibrations, like this string theory or whatever, but they still the world उनके लिए वही रहता है materialistic ही काफी.
That you're absolutely right. That's the orientation we have. But you will notice that scientists who work very deeply in any particular subject, I've said this before, you take a list of all the Nobel Prize winners in the last many, many years, you will find a very large percentage of them have turned to Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and so on. Towards the last bits of their career, when they've come to that state, then look, this is not leading us anywhere after this. I have to find the source of this knowledge. They've all shifted to studying Vedanta. They may not have all had a good guru, but they've all tried to study Vedanta, tried to study Bhagavad Gita, some with gurus, some without gurus. But they've all moved to that, saying the science cannot give me an answer after this. After this point, science fails.
Swamiji, today I read that Einstein's this thing, the drawer, there was a Bhagavad Gita book.
Where?
Einstein's
Drawer. It's true. That's what I'm saying. All of them, whether it is Schrodinger or Feynman or any of these people, towards the end, they've all started looking at gaining this understanding from Upanishads, Shastra. But they cannot get out of the orientation the world is real. Because that point of view is still from within the material jagat. Exactly like the point of view of a guy within the dream. He's not able to get out of that. Somebody has given a meaning of this word. Huh? Immediately looked up in the dictionary.
The truth of pot is now seen as paramanutvam, particleness, shifted cognitively from pot to clay to atoms to paramanus, starting from the cognition of pot, which is in form of pot knowledge consciousness, is one ultimately arrives at paramanu knowledge consciousness is. Wait, what is knowledge
The problem
here?
is that when we try to break it down like this, our mind still works in the form of breaking down to smaller and smaller and smaller material.
Yeah.
What Einstein did was to say that it is not, when you break it down, eventually it is not material anymore, it is energy.
When it's get to the smallest one, iota.
And then you get into that stage where Advaita calls it Chaitanya Swarupam, Chit Swarupam, Chinmayam. Whereas if you go like this, even when you break down an atom, which for many, many, many years remained the smallest particle known to man from Niels Bohr's time, then they broke it down, broke it down, broke it down. Now they are searching for God particle, boson. But even if you take an atom, what does the atom consist of? Bulk of it is only space. In an atom, there's a nucleus, there is the electrons and protons, and whatever other particles they may be there, but basically there's space. That is also the same. So when you start thinking about it in these terms, space also becomes one of the materials, as will become time. One moment you say space, it also includes time. These things, the orientation that space-time forms the basis on which every other object is there, that itself has to change. And that, I think most people, including scientists, find very difficult to change. That's why scientists sort of, all their experimentation is based on the time-space, except for a few people who are actually working on the fact that time-space is not an absolute entity. Yeah.
Throughout this progression, the underlying truth, knowledge consciousness remains unchanged. It is this alone that is Satyam, and that alone is Sattvam, pure existence. The Sat Vastu.
What is the limitation of pure existence? What do you mean by pure existence? We have to understand it. That's all we can do. That's why I like that probably the closest we can think of is the astitvam is the dhatvarta of asdhatu, which applies to everything. But how do you translate it? Pure existence. What can you say?
Pure Brahman. This Sat Vastu, which is ever present and invariable, pervades every concept and the object of every concept. Swamiji, what is like, okay, consciousness is Chit, is Sat. What is knowledge?
What is?
What is knowledge?
They are interrelated. Both indicate intelligence, consciousness and knowledge. In fact, we use these words, knowledge probably easier to understand when you say knowledge of any object in the Jagat is what we understand as knowledge. But when you talk of jnanam in terms of Paramarthika perspective, then it is only jnapti. Even that, if you take a dictionary meaning, you probably won't get anything. But you understand what he's saying. The very basis of knowledge or ignorance, same thing.
Both Swarupa.
Both are, knowledge and ignorance belong to the Jagat. They are the Vachyartha. The Lakshyartha, when you say Jnanam, is Nya Dhatvartha, is a good way of expressing it. Pure knowledge, pure consciousness, same thing.
No.
There's a footnote here. Yeah, go on.
I asked because like writing knowledge and consciousness together is redundant, right?
Throughout the program, underlying truth is knowledge consciousness. Okay. If you think of knowledge in the Jagat, the consciousness of the knowledge you can think of. See, one is knowledge as we know knowledge of objects. How does that knowledge come about? There is a basis for that, which is what we're calling consciousness, Chaitanya. So when Swamiji says knowledge, there's a footnote here which may be interesting to read, then we'll go back to this.
Okay. It can be discerned that anything perceived, inferred, conceived, believed, and even imagined has no being independent of its cause, just like a pot has no being independent of clay. Existence is not inherent to any object or concept. Any anness, like potness, clayness, atomness, which is taken for the reality of an object, is superimposed on what constitutes it, its cause. That anness is really just a name and a form with no independent being. Finally, the existence of anything is one non-dual, self-evident, self-existent Satvastu, which pervades and sustains every Padartha.
Padartha itself means what? Padam and Tasya Artha. Padartha. Every object that we have is a word and its meaning. And the word will have a meaning only when there is consciousness.
Again, boils down to Brahman.
Therefore, he says Sadvastu, which is ever present and invariable, pervades every concept and every object of every concept. Lot to think about.
So, like, so we had three things, right? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. And knowledge is because of consciousness, right?
Correct?
Like when we say knowledge as a Lokika knowledge, that is obviously like we need a conscious knower. And when the differentiation, the triputi is not there, then we also say that only pure knowledge remains, right? But that is same as saying that pure consciousness is. Okay. Okay, मतलब कि knowledge भी एक, we can say we have to see at the not the Vachartha but the
Lakshartha.
Lakshartha. Okay, so it's not a separate thing. Okay.
Yep.
ठीक है.
To continue?
Therefore, when you say Jagat Asti, the meaning of the word Asti, Astitvam, resolves only in the Satvastu, like in Ghatah Asti, the meaning of the word Asti resolves in clay. That is why the Shastra says Tat Sadeva Satyam. Chandogya Upanishad. The word Satyam is ontological, whereas Sat is the Vastu. A difference is made just in order to communicate. The Sat, Sadatma, is the Vastu, and Satyam is an ontological term for that Sadatma. An ontological term is a term that reveals the reality, the degree of reality. Anritam is an ontological term for something that doesn't exist. Mithya is also an ontological term. The word mithya in the language has the meaning of what is false, what is not true. But here, the word mithya is technically used in the sense of the reality status of an object that is existent but dependent upon another thing for its existence. Like a Vyavaharika Ghata has got a reality status which cannot be dismissed as non-existent nor can it be taken as something totally independently existent. This ghatatvam being superimposed upon clay is called mithya. That dependent existence, karana vyatirekena asatvam, is ghatasya mithyatvam. Therefore, ghata is in ontological terms is called mithya. In the Shastra, Sadeva Satyam means that Satvastu is the cause for everything, the truth for everything. And Tattvam Asi Mahavakyena, that Sat is revealed to be Atma. So we understand that Atma alone is Satyam and everything else is Avastu. It is Mithya. Whether it is false or it is Vyavaharika, subjective or objective, both of them depend entirely upon one Vastu alone, and the Vastu is Atma, and that is the Swarupa Sattvam. Existence is not an attribute of Atma, existence is Atma. Therefore, Swarupam eva me Sattvam. Swarupam eva me Sattvam means me, mama, Atmanaha Sattvam. Etymologically, Atti iti Atma. What is Atti? Asti होगा ना ये तो.
Existence.
Atti is existence.
There may be a variation of the At Dhatu. I'm not sure. We'll check up the Dhatu. Atti, I think, is there. A derivative of As Dhatu only. Could be Asti. Could be a mistake of, I don't know. I'll check it out.
So the Chetana Atma is already brought in here through the word. For Atma Swarupa to become clearer, some more words are required. What is the minimum number of words required to reveal Atma? When you draw a map of India, which has many states, and you want the map to be such that each state is portrayed in a distinct color, with the condition that the same color should not border the same color. It is a mathematical problem. What is the minimum number of colors required? For a country like India, they say 3 colors or 4 colors. Similarly, we require a minimum of 3 words to reveal the nature of the Atma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchidanandam. These 3 words are interdependent. The meaning of each word is revealed only with the help of the other words. We have seen this in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmavid apnoti param tadeshabhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma. There the predication is for Brahman. Brahman is the Vishaya of Akanksha. Jignyasam Brahma. Vedyam Prameyam is Brahma because it was said Brahmavid Param Apnoti. The knower of Brahman gains the ultimate end. Therefore, Kim Tad Brahma is a natural Akanksha, a natural expectancy. What is that Brahman? Once you ask that question, Shruti has to describe that Brahman. If Brahman is a substantive, then one can describe Brahman as the meaning of a word using appropriate words. But Jati Guna Kriya Sambandha Rahitam Brahma. Brahman is not a Jati, Guna, Kriya or a Sambandha, which is what words can describe. Then how are you going to describe it through words? But still, the Shastra has to reveal it with words. There is no other way, and it uses 3 words, the minimum 3 words, Satyam Jnanam Anantam.
We will stop here today, but what we will do when we time next class, we will restart from the beginning of this paragraph. Read what Swami has to say, why we use 3 words. And what are the limitation of words in describing something which is not available for words? We, on the one hand, say...
Swami, Arti means to eat, khana. Arti,
No, but
dhatu.
here that cannot be the
It
meaning,
cannot, it must be asti here.
very likely. So the use of three words, use of words itself in the first place, how do you Shastra has to describe Brahman. Brahmavid apnoti param, okay, I want to be param, therefore I have to know Brahman. Then what is the Brahman I have to know? I have to first understand that. So to describe that, Shastra takes recourse to three words. We will look at that a little bit more detail. Reread this paragraph and then continue the reading in the next class. How does Shastra take it upon itself to convey the idea of Brahman using these three words? Our orientation, like we were reading just now, is that the moment you use these words, we'll think of them as attributes, guna. But we are saying Brahman is nirguna. So how are you going to describe Brahman? How are you going to make somebody understand the idea of Brahman? We will look at that in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
Shanti Harihi
Harihi
Om
Om Shri
Guru
Gurubhyo
Namaha
Namaha.
Harihi
Harihi Om. Dhanyavadas.
Great weekend. I'll see